My name is Olivia, and I am 32 years old. Growing up in a small Ohio town, I learned early that appearances hide the darkest truths. When I was 15, my father kicked me so hard I felt my ribs crack. I still remember his words as I gasped for air on our kitchen floor. "Shut up." What I could never have imagined was how one doctor would notice what everyone else chose to ignore, forever changing the course of my life. Before I continue my story, I would love to know where you are watching from today. Please hit like and subscribe if stories of survival and healing resonate with you. Now let me take you back to where it all began. I grew up in a house that looked perfect from the outside. Two-story colonial with blue shutters, a well-kept lawn, and seasonal wreaths on the front door. We were the all-American family everyone admired. My father, Harold, owned a successful construction company and served as a deacon at First Baptist Church. Every Sunday he would shake hands with the congregation, his smile wide and convincing. People called him generous, hard-working, a pillar of the community. My mother, Elaine, was the quintessential supportive wife. She volunteered at church functions, kept our house spotless, and always had dinner on the table by 6. She was beautiful in a quiet way, with soft brown hair and eyes that seemed perpetually apologetic. I rarely saw her stand up to my father. Instead, she became expert at smoothing things over, making excuses, pretending everything was fine. Then there was my sister Vanessa, 2 years older than me and undeniably our father's favorite. She had his steel blue eyes and commanding presence. Vanessa learned early that aligning with power meant safety, so she became his perfect reflection. When he criticized me, she would pile on. When he punished me, she watched with satisfaction. Sometimes, like the day my ribs cracked, she actually laughed. My younger brother Tyler was only 8 at the time of the incident. A sensitive, quiet child who spent most of his time drawing or reading alone in his room. He witnessed more than a child should, his wide brown eyes taking in everything. Too young to help, too scared to speak, he was another casualty of our family dynamic. From the outside, we appeared blessed. Father, the provider; mother, the nurturer; 3 healthy children in a nice neighborhood with good schools. Nobody knew that behind our front door we walked on eggshells, anticipating the next explosion. The pattern had established itself years before. Minor infractions would trigger disproportionate rage. A glass left on the counter, homework not completed to his standards, speaking with the wrong tone of voice. The punishment rarely fit the crime, but my father was skilled at justifying his actions. "This is how you learn respect," he would say. Or, "You need discipline to succeed in life." The physical punishment was painful, but the emotional manipulation cut deeper. He was masterful at gaslighting. That never happened, he would insist after a violent episode. Or, "You are too sensitive," or, "You provoked me." After a while, I began questioning my own reality, wondering if perhaps I truly deserved what happened to me. Our family operated under a strict code of silence. "Family business stays within these walls," my father would remind us. My mother reinforced this message in gentler but equally firm ways. "People would not understand our family dynamic," she would say. "They might take you away from us." School became my sanctuary, though maintaining the facade of normalcy exhausted me. I was a good student but quiet, afraid to draw attention. The energy required to hide bruises, to invent stories about injuries, to pretend my home life was normal, left little room for typical teenage concerns. I had one friend, Zoe, who saw through the cracks in my performance. With wild curly hair and a rebellious spirit, she was everything I was not. Outspoken, confident, unafraid. She would give me questioning looks when I winced sitting down, or when I changed for gym class facing the corner. "You can tell me anything," she would say, but the words stayed locked inside me. What could she do anyway? What could anyone do? By 15, my body had become a map of healing and fresh injuries. I had developed a high pain tolerance and an ability to dissociate when necessary. But the physical problems were getting worse. Unexplained pains in my abdomen, difficulty breathing after certain punishments, bruises that seemed to take longer to heal each time. I became expert at hiding symptoms, but I could not hide from myself that something was seriously wrong. The incident that finally forced everything into the open began, like many others, with a simple mistake and a disproportionate response. But this time would be different. This time, someone would see through the carefully constructed facade of our family life. This time, I would find my voice. It happened on a Tuesday evening in October. The air outside had turned crisp, but inside our house tension simmered hot as always. I was washing dishes after dinner, my hands slippery with soap and water. My father was sitting at the kitchen table reviewing bills, his presence, making my movements stiff and cautious. The plate slipped from my hands before I could catch it. The crash seemed deafening in the quiet kitchen's ceramic shards scattering across the tile floor. I froze, watching a piece spin to a stop near my father's foot. The scrape of his chair against the floor made my stomach clench. He stood slowly, deliberately, his face transforming from annoyed to furious in seconds. "What is wrong with you?" he asked, his voice dangerously quiet. This was always worse than yelling, the controlled rage that preceded the worst punishments. "I am sorry," I whispered, already backing away. "It was an accident. I will clean it up right away." "You are always sorry after the fact," he said, stepping toward me. "Never careful enough to begin with. Never thinking ahead." My sister Vanessa appeared in the doorway, drawn by the commotion. She leaned against the frame, arms crossed, watching the scene unfold with interest. "What did she do now?" she asked, as though inquiring about a recurring sitcom gag rather than her sister's impending punishment. "Broke another dish," my father answered without looking at her. His eyes remained fixed on me, tracking my slight movements as I tried to edge toward the broom. "That is the second one this month," Vanessa observed. "Maybe she should pay for them out of her allowance." I shot her a pleading look, but she just raised an eyebrow, enjoying her role as instigator. My mother appeared next, taking in the situation with a quick glance. "Harold, I can handle this. Olivia, start cleaning up while I get the dustpan." But my father held up his hand, stopping her. "No, Elaine. She needs to learn consequences. You are always too soft." My mother hesitated for just a moment before her shoulders slumped. She retreated without another word, leaving me alone with him. Vanessa smirked at this familiar scene, while Tyler peeked around the corner, his small face worried. I bent down to begin picking up the larger pieces, hoping the gesture of responsibility might diffuse his anger. That was when it happened. His foot connected with my side so suddenly I had no time to brace myself. The pain was immediate and breathtaking, radiating through my rib cage. I fell sideways, gasping, pieces of broken plate cutting into my palms. "Shut up," he barked when a cry escaped my lips. "It is not that bad. Stop being dramatic." Through tears, I saw Vanessa laughing softly. "She always does this," she said, to no one in particular. "Acts like she is dying over nothing." The pain was unlike anything I had experienced before. Each breath sent sharp stabs through my chest. Something was definitely wrong, more than the usual bruising from his punishments. My mother had returned to the doorway, her face pale. "Harold, I think she is really hurt." "She is faking for sympathy," he insisted, though he stepped back, perhaps realizing he had gone too far. "Get up, Olivia. Clean this mess and go to your room." Somehow, I managed to get to my feet, each movement sending waves of agony through my torso. I cleaned up mechanically, tears silently streaming down my face. No one offered to help. Tyler had disappeared, probably back to the safety of his room. Vanessa watched for a few minutes before getting bored and leaving. My mother busied herself with wiping counters, avoiding my eyes. That night was endless. I could not find a position that did not hurt. Lying down was excruciating, sitting up not much better. I took 4 ibuprofen from my secret stash, but they barely touched the pain. Sleep came in fitful bursts, interrupted by searing pain whenever I moved. The next morning I told my mother I was sick and needed to stay home from school. She looked at me with concern but also fear. "Your father thinks you should go to school. He says you are fine." I went. Each step of the bus ride was agony, each class a blur of pain. I avoided Zoe, knowing she would see through any excuse. By lunchtime I had stolen more ibuprofen from the nurse's office when she stepped out. I could not take a deep breath without feeling like I was being stabbed. This pattern continued for nearly a week. The pain did not improve. If anything, it worsened. Breathing became more difficult. A deep purple bruise spread across my side. I began to worry something was seriously wrong, but was more afraid of my father's reaction if I complained. On the 7th day after the incident, everything changed. During gym class, we were running laps around the track. I had been faking participation all week, but on this day the teacher insisted everyone complete the full mile. Halfway through my first lap, the edges of my vision began to darken. The pain in my chest became unbearable. I remember falling to my knees, then nothing. I woke up in the nurse's office, with Zoe sitting beside me, her face tight with worry. "You passed out," she said. "Miss Winters called an ambulance." Panic surged through me, stronger than the pain. "No, I am fine. I just got dizzy. Please, I need to go back to class." The school nurse, Mrs. Patel, approached with a stern expression. "Olivia, you are not fine. You have difficulty breathing and there is significant bruising on your torso. The paramedics are on their way." "Please," I begged, grabbing her arm. "My parents will be angry." Something in her eyes changed, then a flash of understanding that made me look away. "Your health comes first," she said gently. "We have already called your parents. They will meet you at the hospital." And just like that, the careful walls I had built around our family secret began to crumble. The hospital emergency room buzzed with controlled chaos. Nurses in colorful scrubs moved purposefully between curtained areas. Monitors beeped, phones rang, and somewhere a child was crying. I lay on a gurney, trying to make myself as small as possible, dreading what was coming. The initial assessment was quick and professional. A nurse named Laura took my vitals and asked about my pain level. When I hesitated, she looked directly into my eyes. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the worst pain imaginable, where are you right now? Please be honest. 8, I whispered, surprising myself with the truth. The doctor who first examined me was young with kind eyes. He pressed gently along my ribs, apologizing when I winced. "We need to get some x-rays," he said. "It looks like you might have some broken ribs, possibly other internal injuries." My parents arrived while I was waiting for the x-ray. My father stormed in first, my mother trailing behind him like a shadow. His face was a mask of concern, but I recognized the anger simmering beneath. "What happened?" he demanded, directing the question to the nurse rather than me. "She collapsed during physical education," Laura explained. "She is having difficulty breathing and shows signs of chest trauma." "She fell down the stairs last week," my father said smoothly. "She said she was fine. You should have told us you were still hurting Olivia." The lie slid out so easily, his voice perfect in its balance of concern and gentle admonishment. I saw the nurse's expression shift slightly, reassessing the situation. "Is that what happened, Olivia?" she asked. "You fell downstairs." My father's eyes bored into mine. My mother stared at the floor. "Yes," I said. "I fell." The X-rays confirmed 3 broken ribs and showed potential internal bleeding. The young doctor ordered additional tests and consulted with a colleague. That was when Dr. Sofia Martinez entered my life. She was not physically imposing average height, with a neat dark bob and rectangular glasses, but she carried herself with quiet authority that commanded respect. She reviewed my charts thoroughly before addressing my parents. "Mr. and Mrs. Miller, I am Dr. Martinez, the attending physician. Olivia has 3 fractured ribs and some concerning internal bruising. We need to monitor her closely and run a few more tests." My father switched on his community leader charm. "Thank you, doctor. We appreciate your thoroughness. When do you think we can take her home? My wife can look after her." Dr. Martinez did not return his smile. "That depends on the test results and how she responds to treatment. Rib fractures in adolescents are actually quite unusual. The pediatric rib cage is very flexible compared to adults. It takes significant force to break ribs in someone Olivia's age." A flicker of unease crossed my father's face. As I explained to the nurse, she fell down our stairs, hit the banister on the way down. Dr. Martinez made a note in my chart. "I see. And when did this fall occur?" "About a week ago," my mother offered quietly. "And you did not seek medical attention at that time?" My father's jaw tightened slightly. "She said she was fine. Kids are always getting bumps and bruises. We had no idea it was this serious." Dr. Martinez nodded, her face neutral. "I would like to speak with Olivia alone for a few minutes, if you do not mind. Standard procedure with adolescent patients." "I would prefer to stay," my father said immediately. "Hospital policy," Dr. Martinez replied firmly. "You can wait just outside. We will not be long." After a tense moment, my parents left the room. Dr. Martinez pulled up a stool and sat at eye level with me. She did not immediately speak, just studied my face with compassionate eyes. "Olivia," she finally said, her voice gentle but direct, "I want you to know that you are safe here. Nothing you tell me will leave this room unless it needs to for your protection. Did someone hurt you?" The question hung in the air between us. No one had ever asked me so directly before. Years of conditioning warred with the desperate desire to finally tell someone. Fear won. "I fell down the stairs." Dr. Martinez nodded, not pushing. "The injuries I am seeing are not entirely consistent with a fall downstairs. The pattern of bruising suggests impact trauma from the front and side, not from tumbling down steps." My heart pounded. She knew. Someone finally knew. "Sometimes," she continued carefully, "people who care about us can hurt us. That does not make it right, and it does not make it your fault. My job is to help you get better, and that means understanding exactly what happened." Tears filled my eyes, but I could not form the words. 15 years of silence could not be broken so easily. "I am going to order a full body scan," she said, apparently changing tactics. "We need to check for other injuries." The scan revealed what years of secrets had built evidence of multiple healed fractures in various stages. Old bruising layered under new DAPA roadmap of ongoing abuse that could no longer be denied or explained away. Dr. Martinez reviewed the results with a radiologist, then stepped out to speak with my parents. I could not hear what was said, but I saw my father's face through the window in the door. His expression transformed from annoyed to furious to artificially composed in seconds when they returned. Dr. Martinez was accompanied by a hospital security guard who positioned himself quietly by the door. "We would like to admit Olivia overnight for observation," she said. "The internal bruising concerns me, and we need to monitor her breathing." "That will not be necessary," my father replied coldly. "We are taking her home now. I will sign whatever release forms you need." Dr. Martinez shook her head. "I cannot recommend that, Mr. Miller. And there is another matter we need to discuss. The scans show evidence of multiple previous injuries in various stages of healing. As a mandated reporter, I am legally required to report suspected abuse to Child Protective Services." And with those words, the fragile structure of lies that had protected our family's secret for years began to collapse entirely. My father's face drained of color before flushing an angry red. "What exactly are you implying, Doctor?" His voice was dangerously quiet. The tone I knew preceded his worst outbursts. Dr. Martinez remained perfectly calm. "I am not implying anything, Mr. Miller. I am stating facts based on medical evidence. Olivia's body shows signs of repeated trauma over an extended period. As healthcare providers, we are required by law to report such findings." "This is outrageous," my father said, his voice rising. "You examine her for one issue, and suddenly you are making wild accusations. I will sue this hospital for defamation." My mother placed a restraining hand on his arm. "Harold, please, let us listen to what the doctor has to say." He shook her off roughly. "No, Elaine. I will not stand here and be accused of harming my own daughter." He turned to me, eyes blazing. "Olivia, tell them. Tell them I have never hurt you." Every eye in the room turned to me. Dr. Martinez, the security guard, my father, my mother. The weight of their gazes made it hard to breathe. 15 years of fear and secrecy pressed down on my chest heavier than my broken ribs. My voice faltered. "Tell them," my father demanded. Dr. Martinez stepped between us. "Mr. Miller, I must ask you to lower your voice and step back. Olivia is my patient, and her well-being is my primary concern." "She is my daughter," he countered. "And we are leaving. Now, get your things, Olivia." I did not move, could not move. "I am afraid that is not possible," Dr. Martinez said. "We have already contacted Child Protective Services, and they have issued a temporary hold. Olivia needs to remain in the hospital until their investigation is complete." My father lunged toward the doctor, stopping just short of touching her when the security guard stepped forward. "You have no right. You cannot keep my child from me." "Actually, sir, we can," the guard said calmly. "And if you continue to be disruptive, I will have to ask you to leave the premises." What followed was chaos. My father shouting threats about lawyers and lawsuits. My mother crying quietly in the corner. More security arriving, a hospital administrator attempting to defuse the situation. Through it all, Dr. Martinez remained by my side, a steady presence in the storm. When my father finally stormed out, dragging my reluctant mother with him, the room fell into blessed silence. "You did well," Dr. Martinez told me, though I had done nothing but lie there in frozen terror. "I know this is overwhelming, but you are not alone anymore." Within hours, a social worker named Diana arrived. With gentle but probing questions, she began the process of unraveling our family secrets. I found myself answering truthfully, the words pouring out after being dammed up for so long. Yes, my father had kicked me. Yes, it happened often. Yes, there were other types of punishment. No, my mother never stopped him. Yes, my sister sometimes participated. Yes, I was afraid to go home. Diana took photographs of my injuries current and healing. She made notes and asked about specific incidents. With each revelation, I felt both lighter and more terrified. What would happen now? Where would I go? What would my father do when he found out what I had told them? The police came next, two detectives who asked many of the same questions, but in different ways. They were kind but businesslike, explaining that they needed to interview my siblings and parents as well. What will happen to my brother? I asked, suddenly panicked at the thought of Tyler alone with my father's rage. He is only 8. He did not do anything. We will make sure he is safe, the female detective assured me. Your siblings will be interviewed separately, and appropriate arrangements will be made for everyone's safety. Later that evening, I learned that the situation at home had escalated dramatically. My father had returned to the hospital demanding to see me. When denied access, he had attempted to force his way past security. In his rage, he had shoved a nurse and threatened Dr. Martinez. He was arrested on site. My mother called my hospital room sobbing. How could you do this to us, Olivia? To your father? To our family? Her words cut deep, reinforcing years of conditioning that I was responsible for maintaining family harmony, that speaking the truth was a betrayal. Mom, he hurt me. He broke my ribs. It was an accident, she insisted. You provoked him. You always push his buttons. I recognized the script she had recited so many times, but now it rang hollow. No, Mom. It was not an accident, and it was not my fault. There was a long silence before she spoke again, her voice colder. Your sister is devastated. Do you know? They questioned her for hours. They made Tyler cry. Are you happy now? After she hung up, I curled into myself, as much as my injured ribs would allow, and sobbed. Despite the evidence, despite the validation from medical professionals and authorities, part of me still believed I had done something terrible by telling the truth. Diana returned the next day with news. My father remained in custody, charged with assault. My mother had been given an ultimatum: support my father or support her children. She had chosen my father. Vanessa, at 17, had vehemently denied any abuse occurred and accused me of lying for attention. Only Tyler, with the simple honesty of an 8-year-old, had confirmed what happened in our house. Where will I go? I asked the question that had kept me awake through the night. We have found a temporary foster placement for you, Diana explained. A family named the Johnsons. They have experience with teens in crisis situations. You will go there once you are discharged. And Tyler, he will be placed with a different foster family temporarily, the Kellers. They specialize in younger children. You will be able to have supervised visits with him. Everything was changing so quickly. Our family, dysfunctional as it was, had been blown apart in just 2 days. I felt relieved and guilty and terrified all at once. The familiar, even if painful, was being replaced by the unknown. As Dr. Martinez signed my discharge papers the following day, she squeezed my hand. Remember, Olivia, what happened was not your fault. Speaking the truth was brave, not disloyal. I know it does not feel like it now, but things will get better. I wanted desperately to believe her. The Johnson family lived in a modest ranch-style house, with a fenced backyard and a golden retriever named Buddy. My foster mother, Grace, was a kindergarten teacher with kind eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. Her husband, Frank, worked from home as an accountant. They had 2 grown children who had already left for college and had been fostering teens for nearly a decade. Your room is the second door on the right, Grace told me as she showed me around. Bathroom is across the hall. We do not have many rules here, but the ones we have matter. Honesty, respect, and communication. Everything else we can figure out as we go. The room was simple but comfortable. Twin bed with a blue comforter, wooden desk under the window. Empty bookshelves waiting to be filled. Nothing like my floral wallpapered room at home, but somehow less oppressive in its plainness. "Make it your own," Grace said. "We can get posters or whatever you like to decorate." The first night, I barely slept. Every sound made me tense. Would Frank turn out to have a temper too? Would Grace grow tired of my presence? The uncertainty was almost worse than the familiar fear I had lived with for years. Physical recovery came slowly. My ribs ached with every breath, every movement. Twice weekly checkups with Dr. Martinez confirmed I was healing properly, but she worried about my weight loss and the dark circles under my eyes. "Are you sleeping?" she asked during one visit. "Not really," I admitted. "Nightmares." I nodded, and just thinking about everything. She prescribed a mild sleep aid and referred me to Dr. Rachel Wilson, a psychologist specializing in trauma and adolescent therapy. Dr. Wilson's office was nothing like I imagined a therapist's would be. No leather couch, no dim lighting. Just a bright room with comfortable chairs, plants on the windowsill, and abstract art on the walls. Dr. Wilson herself was middle-aged, with silver-streaked dark hair and a direct gaze that somehow never felt intrusive. "Therapy is not about me telling you how to feel or what to do," she explained in our first session. "It is about creating a safe space for you to process what you have experienced and develop tools to move forward." Those early sessions were excruciating. Putting words to experiences I had spent my life hiding felt like peeling off my own skin. Dr. Wilson introduced concepts that reframed my entire understanding of my family. "What you experienced was abuse," she said matter-of-factly. "Physical, emotional, and psychological. And it was never not once your fault." But if I had just been more careful, I started. "No," she interrupted gently but firmly. "Abusers choose to abuse. Children do not choose to be abused. Your father made choices. You were simply trying to survive them." She explained trauma responses, how my hypervigilance, anxiety, and difficulty trusting others were normal reactions to abnormal situations. She talked about how abuse impacts brain development and introduced techniques to ground myself when memories became overwhelming. Most importantly, she helped me understand the complex dynamics of abusive families. How my mother's failure to protect us was its own form of abuse. How Vanessa had adapted by identifying with our father becoming complicit to protect herself. How Tyler and I had developed different survival strategies. Meanwhile, the legal process ground forward with excruciating slowness. My father remained in custody, denied bail, due to the severity of the charges and the perceived threat to his family. My mother hired an expensive lawyer for him and mortgaged the house to pay legal fees. Preliminary hearings were scheduled, then rescheduled. I gave formal statements first to police, then to prosecutors. Each time I had to recount specific incidents, I felt physically ill, but Diana assured me my testimony was crucial. "Your medical records are strong evidence," she explained. "But your first-hand account matters too." Dr. Martinez testified about the medical evidence. Her testimony particularly damning, given her expertise and credibility. Other witnesses emerged as the case proceeded. Our next-door neighbor admitted she had heard shouting and crying from our house for years, but had not wanted to get involved. My fourth-grade teacher revealed she had reported suspected abuse to the principal, but no action had been taken. Zoe's mother confessed she had always felt something was wrong, but respected my mother's assertions that everything was fine. School presented its own challenges. I returned 2 weeks after my hospitalization, physically improved, but emotionally raw. The rumors had spread, of course. In a small town, a prominent businessman being arrested for child abuse was major news. Some students stared openly. Others whispered behind their hands. A few well-meaning teachers were awkwardly solicitous, while others seemed to pretend nothing had changed. The school counselor created a safe word I could use if I needed to leave class without explanation. Zoe was my anchor. She walked with me between classes, glaring at anyone who stared too long. She brought me homework when I missed days for court appearances or therapy. She never pushed for details, but listened when I needed to talk. I always knew something was wrong, she told me once. I just did not know what to do about it. You were the only normal thing in my life, I said. That helped more than you know. Slowly, painfully, I began to adjust to my new reality. The Johnsons were consistent and patient. When I flinched at Frank's raised hand reaching for a high shelf, he pretended not to notice, but was careful to move more slowly around me afterward. When I apologized obsessively for minor mistakes, Grace would gently remind me that accidents happen in every household without consequences. My first supervised visit with Tyler broke my heart. He ran to me, throwing his small arms around my waist with a care that no 8-year-old should have to show. "Are you still hurt?" he asked, his eyes serious. "Getting better every day," I assured him. "How are you? Are the Kellers nice?" He nodded. "They have a PlayStation. And Mrs. Keller makes chocolate chip pancakes on Saturdays." Then, voice dropping to a whisper, "Is Dad still in jail?" "Yes." "Good." The fierceness in his young voice startled me. "He was mean to you, and sometimes to me, too." "I know, buddy. I am sorry I could not stop him." He looked at me with ancient eyes in his child's face. "It was not your job to stop him. That is what Mrs. Harper says." Mrs. Harper, I learned, was his therapist. "Mrs. Harper is right," I said, throat tight with unshed tears. Those visits became the brightest spots in my weeks. Tyler was adapting to his foster home with the resilience of youth. He spoke openly about our father's behavior in a way I never could at his age. His therapist was using play and art to help him process his experiences, and he proudly showed me drawings that expressed his feelings. As the weeks turned to months, small positive changes accumulated. I gained back some weight. The dark circles under my eyes faded. I had fewer nightmares, though they never disappeared completely. I made a tentative friend in my biology lab partner, a quiet girl named Lily, who never asked intrusive questions. Most significantly, I began to find my voice. In therapy, I graduated from halting, shame-filled accounts to more confident assertions of my experiences and feelings. In court proceedings, I learned to speak clearly and directly, even when my father's lawyer attempted to minimize or reframe events. And one day, in my 4th month with the Johnsons, I realized I had gone 24 hours without fear. Just one day when the knot in my stomach loosened, when I laughed without immediately tensing for punishment, when I moved through the world as if I had a right to exist in it. It was a small victory, but it felt enormous. That Dr. Wilson told me when I shared this in therapy is what healing looks like. Not a straight line, not an overnight transformation, but moments of freedom that gradually grow longer and more frequent. I held on to that thought on harder days when memories ambushed me, or when new developments in the case reopened old wounds. Healing was not linear, but it was possible. And for the first time in my life, I began to believe I deserved it. The legal resolution came 16 months after my hospitalization. By then, I had turned 17 and lived through a full cycle of seasons with the Johnsons. My father, facing overwhelming evidence and multiple charges, accepted a plea deal. 8 years in prison, with no possibility of early parole, followed by 5 years of probation, permanent restraining orders for Tyler and me. I sat in the courtroom as the judge announced the sentence, my hands trembling slightly in my lap. The man at the defendant's table looked smaller, somehow diminished in his orange jumpsuit. He did not look at me once during the proceedings. My mother sat directly behind him, still supporting him despite everything. She had filed for divorce only when her lawyer made it clear that continuing to stand by my father would permanently cost her custody of Tyler. Even then, she maintained his innocence to anyone who would listen. Vanessa, now 18, and legally an adult, had moved into our old house with our mother after graduating high school. She had visited our father regularly in jail and testified on his behalf, claiming I had always been dramatic and attention-seeking. Our relationship, never good, was now non-existent. The judge addressed me directly before concluding. "Young lady, the courage you have shown in coming forward has not only protected yourself, but potentially others. This court recognizes the difficulty of testifying against a parent and commends your bravery." Outside the courthouse, Diana hugged me. "How are you feeling?" "I do not know," I answered honestly. Relieved, sad, numb. "All normal reactions," she assured me. "This is a significant milestone, but healing continues beyond the courtroom." She was right. The legal resolution provided a framework for moving forward, but it did not erase the past or instantly heal its wounds. With the case concluded, new decisions loomed. The temporary foster placements could now transition to more permanent arrangements. My mother, technically eligible to regain custody, would need to complete parenting classes and therapy, as well as demonstrate her ability to protect us from our father even after his eventual release. "What do you want, Olivia?" Diana asked during a meeting to discuss options. It was the first time anyone had asked me that question about my living situation. I had spent so long surviving day to day that thinking about what I wanted felt foreign. "I want to stay with the Johnsons," I said finally, "at least until I graduate high school, and I want to see Tyler regularly." Tyler remained with the Kellers, who had expressed interest in becoming his long-term foster family with potential for adoption. At 9 now, nearly 10, he was thriving in their structured, supportive household. His therapist reported significant progress in processing his trauma, though he still had nightmares and occasional behavioral issues at school. Our mother, faced with the reality that neither of her children wanted to return home, finally began her own journey of reckoning. Through court-mandated therapy, she slowly acknowledged her role in enabling the abuse. Her first supervised visit with me was awkward and tear-filled. "I failed you," she admitted. "I was supposed to protect you, and I did not." "Why?" I asked the question that had haunted me for years. "Why did you let it happen?" She looked down at her clasped hands. "I was afraid of him, of being alone, of not being able to support you kids by myself. I told myself it was not that bad, that all families had problems." She looked up, eyes wet. "I was wrong, so wrong, and I am sorry, Olivia. I know that is not enough, but I am truly sorry." It was not enough, not nearly, but it was a beginning. Over time, our relationship inched toward something resembling healing. Never the mother-daughter bond it should have been, but a cautious connection built on her growing accountability and my tentative forgiveness. Vanessa remained the family holdout, clinging to her defense of our father and her denial of the abuse. When our mother finally began to acknowledge the truth, Vanessa moved out, renting an apartment and cutting contact with everyone except our father. I mourned the sister I never really had the relationship that might have been possible in a different family. School became more than just an escape. With the support of a few key teachers, particularly Mr. Peterson, my English teacher, I discovered a passion for writing. Putting my experiences on paper, first in private journals and later in carefully anonymized creative pieces, helped me process my trauma in ways that complemented my ongoing therapy. "You have a powerful voice," Mr. Peterson told me after reading a personal essay I had written. "Your words could help others who have experienced similar situations." That comment planted a seed that would later bloom into my career path. The idea that my pain could be transformed into something that might help others gave it purpose, made it bearable in a new way. With graduation approaching, I began considering college options. My grades, always good, had improved as my home situation stabilized. Mr. Peterson encouraged me to apply for scholarships, and Grace helped me navigate financial aid applications. "You can stay with us during college breaks," Frank told me, matter-of-factly. "This is your home for as long as you need it." The casual certainty of his statement brought tears to my eyes. After years of conditional acceptance, the Johnsons' straightforward support still caught me off guard sometimes. Dr. Wilson suggested I join a support group for survivors of family abuse during my senior year. Initially reluctant, I found unexpected strength in the shared experiences of the group members. People of different ages and backgrounds who understood without explanation the hypervigilance, the self-doubt, the complicated grief for a family that hurt you. "Recovery is not about forgetting," said Layla, a woman in her 30s who had escaped an abusive husband. "It is about remembering without being controlled by the memories." Through the group, I began to develop a new understanding of resilience, not as an impenetrable armor, but as the ability to be wounded and still grow, still love, still hope. I watched older members who had built healthy relationships and successful careers despite their pasts, and their examples gave me hope for my own future. During my final semester of high school, I took a tentative step that surprised even me. I spoke at an assembly about recognizing the signs of abuse. Without sharing the specific details of my experience, I outlined the warning signals, the resources available, and the importance of speaking up both for oneself and for others. The response was overwhelming. Students I barely knew approached me afterward, some sharing their own experiences, others asking how they could help friends they were worried about. Several teachers confessed they now recognized signs they had missed in other students. The school counselor reported an increase in requests for help in the weeks that followed. This unexpected impact led to an invitation to speak at other schools in neighboring districts. With Diana's help navigating the logistics, I developed a presentation appropriate for different age groups, from middle school through high school. When acceptance letters from colleges began arriving that spring, I chose a school with a strong psychology program, determined to turn my experience into a career helping other trauma survivors. The university was only 2 hours from the Johnsons, allowing me to visit regularly and close enough to maintain my strengthening relationship with Tyler. As high school graduation approached, I reflected on the nearly 2-year journey since Dr. Martinez had first asked me directly if someone had hurt me. The path had been neither straight nor easy. There had been setbacks, days when the weight of the past felt crushing. But there had also been growth I could never have imagined in the fearful silence of my childhood home. I had found my voice, and with it the beginnings of a future I could choose for myself. Today, at 32, I look at my life with a sense of wonder that sometimes still catches me off guard. The terrified 15-year-old with broken ribs could never have imagined the woman I would become, the life I would build from the broken pieces of my childhood. After earning my undergraduate degree in psychology, I went on to complete a doctorate in clinical psychology, specializing in trauma recovery for children and adolescents. Now I have my own practice working with young people who have experienced abuse, helping them find the path to healing that I once struggled to see for myself. The journey here was neither quick nor easy. College brought new challenges, new triggers, new lessons in trust and boundaries. Dating was particularly difficult. The first time a boyfriend raised his voice during an argument, I had a panic attack so severe I needed medical intervention. Learning to distinguish between normal conflict and warning signs of abuse took years of continued therapy and practice. My mother and I maintained a careful relationship through those years. She completed her therapy and parenting classes, eventually earning back limited visitation rights with Tyler, though he remained with the Kellers through his childhood. As she demonstrated genuine change and accountability, our interactions became less strained, though always containing an awareness of the past. We could neither change nor forget. "I am proud of who you have become," she told me at my graduate school commencement, "and I am so sorry for what you had to overcome to get here." "I know, Mom," I said, and I did know. Not in a way that erased the pain or fully healed the breach of trust, but in a way that acknowledged her own journey toward accountability and change. My father was released after serving his full 8 years when I was 24. He made attempts to contact me despite the restraining order, sending letters through various third parties. I never responded. Forgiveness, as Dr. Wilson had helped me understand, did not require reconciliation or relationship. It was something I did for myself, not for him. Vanessa and I had no contact for nearly a decade after the trial. Then, shortly after our father's release, she called me out of the blue. Her voice sounded different, subdued, and uncertain. "He tried to hit me," she said without preamble. "When I disagreed with him about something, he raised his hand just like he used to do to you." The validation I might once have craved from this admission felt hollow in the face of her pain. "Are you safe now?" I asked. "Yes, I left. I am staying with a friend." A pause. "You were telling the truth all along, were not you?" "Yes, Vanessa, I was." Our reconciliation has been slow and sometimes difficult. She carries guilt for her role in my abuse, for not believing me, for testifying against me. I carry the scars of her betrayal and cruelty. But we are building something new, not reclaiming what never really existed. Tyler grew into a thoughtful young man, with a gift for connecting with troubled kids. Now, a high school teacher, he uses his own experience to identify and support students who might be suffering in silence. We speak weekly and see each other for holidays and special occasions. The bond forged in the shared trauma of our childhood has evolved into a genuine friendship as adults. The Johnsons remain an important part of my life, true family in all the ways that matter. When Frank passed away 3 years ago, I stood beside Grace at the funeral, supporting her as she had once supported me. She still calls me her girl and insists on sending care packages, even though I am a successful professional who can buy my own snacks and socks. Dr. Martinez and I have maintained contact through the years. I shadowed her during medical school rotations, and she occasionally refers patients to my practice. Over coffee last month, I finally asked her a question that had lingered for 17 years. "How did you know, that day in the hospital when everyone else believed my father's story about the stairs? How did you see the truth?" She considered this carefully before answering. It was not one thing but many small inconsistencies. The pattern of injuries did not match a fall. Your fear when your father was present. The way he answered for you. She paused. But mostly it was the look in your eyes. I had seen it before in other children. A resigned hopelessness that comes from believing no one will help, no one will believe you. "Thank you for believing me," I said simply. She smiled. I am thankful you were brave enough to eventually tell the truth. That takes immense courage. My personal life has found its own healing path. After several relationships that faltered under the weight of my past, I met Noah, a pediatric occupational therapist with a quiet strength and endless patience. He understood when I needed space, recognized when I was triggered, and never took my trauma responses personally. 5 years ago, we married in a small ceremony with the people who had helped me rebuild my life surrounding us. We have a 3-year-old daughter now, Eliza Grace. Holding her, watching her grow, I am sometimes overwhelmed by the contrast between her secure childhood and my own. She knows nothing of walking on eggshells, of covering bruises, of silencing her voice. She laughs loudly, makes mistakes without fear, and knows with absolute certainty that she is loved unconditionally. Becoming a parent brought new challenges, new triggers, new fears. Would I repeat patterns without meaning to? Would the legacy of abuse somehow transfer through me despite my best intentions? These worries sent me back to therapy, where I learned that awareness and intention are powerful preventives against repeating cycles. The deepest lesson I have learned through all of this is that one person can truly change the trajectory of a life. For me, that person was Dr. Martinez, who saw what others chose not to see and took action. Her courage gave me the chance to find my own. I think also of Diana, who guided me through the legal labyrinth, of Grace and Frank Johnson, who showed me what healthy family love looks like, of Dr. Wilson, who helped me rebuild my sense of self, of Mr. Peterson, who encouraged me to use my voice through writing, each one a link in the chain that pulled me toward healing. This understanding shapes my work with young clients. I may be just one person in their journey, but that role matters. Being the one who believes them, who sees them fully, who stands firm against the chaos of abuse, can plant seeds of healing that grow for decades. Breaking the cycle of abuse is not just about personal recovery. It is about transforming pain into purpose, about using what hurt us to help prevent others from being hurt in the same ways. Every child I help find safety. Every parent I help break destructive patterns. Every family I help rebuild on healthier foundations represents a future branch of the cycle severed. The journey from victim to survivor to thriver is neither straightforward nor finite. There are still days when memories ambush me, when old patterns of thought try to reassert themselves. The difference now is that I have tools to recognize and counter them, and a support system to lean on when needed. Forgiveness, I have learned, is not a gift you give your abuser. It is a process of releasing the power the abuse holds over your present and future. It does not require reconciliation or relationship. It does not erase accountability. It simply creates space for your own life to flourish beyond the shadow of what was done to you. Perhaps the most unexpected lesson has been finding strength in vulnerability. For years, I believed showing pain or fear was dangerous, that perfect performance was the only safety. Learning to be authentically present with my own feelings to allow others to see my struggles has been both the most difficult and most rewarding aspect of healing. As I watch my daughter playing in our backyard, secure in the knowledge that her home is safe, that her voice matters, that mistakes are just learning opportunities, I feel the full circle of this journey. The pain I endured was not meaningless, not wasted, not victorious. It became the foundation for a life devoted to ensuring other children find their way to safety and healing. If you are watching this and recognize your own story in mine, please know you are not alone. There are Dr. Martinez's in the world looking for ways to help you. There are resources, even when they seem impossible to find. Your voice matters, your truth deserves to be heard, and your future can be different from your past. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever been the one person who noticed something wrong and spoke up? Or has someone been that person for you? Please share your experiences if you feel comfortable. And if my story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that healing is possible, that broken beginnings do not determine our endings. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember, you are stronger than you know.